Hi Cancer, welcome to your Aries season reading. Before we get to love, relationships, which signs are bothering you, work and money, we have a lot to talk about there. We also talk about mental health. Before we get to all that, I wanted to talk to you about responsibility. Responsibility facing the world. It's the bridge that led me to this reading. So Pluto in Aquarius, whether it's across from your natal Cancer sun or you're a Cancer rising and it's in your eighth house, Pluto in Aquarius has already shown us how tough we are going to have to be. And today, we're going to talk about how tough you can be even without your armor, and how your armor at times keeps you fragile and keeps you from taking responsibility. Now, where is your shell going? What do you mean without my armor? My armor is a part of me. Hello. Yeah, I understand that. But what if I told you that Aries season is a time where others will need your armor more than you need it? Whether you are part of a household or the head of your own household, this is a time in which you have to step up, and not in the way that we're used to stepping up. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you a little story, and it's New York, so I'm not like embarrassed about this. It's kind of a weird story. So the other day, I'm out to lunch with a friend, and we were talking about how, because of our traumas growing up, we have a tendency to escape into the mind. However, both of us came to the realization at the same time that this does not apply to our children. We don't hide from the responsibilities that come with being a mom. In those ways, we're able to step up and keep stepping up with no armor in sight. And as she was relaying this to me, because she was saying, it's so hard for me to keep on top of my own stuff, but everything with my kids is always done on time. They never miss a deadline. They're never not without whatever they need. And trying to relate to her, I regaled her with this story that I'm not going to tell you. It may sound silly, but it does encompass what we have in front of us in Aries season. So I still remember the year because I was so fucking terrified. In 2017, a huge water bug got into my apartment. I mean, the thing was huge. I would later find out that water bugs are extremely attracted to the scent of hibiscus. And I had a flowering hibiscus plant, so it makes sense. Actually, my windows were open. I genuinely think it flew in the window. Well, there it was in my apartment. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a gigantic roach with wings, bro. The kind of wings that when it flies, you can fucking hear that shit flutter. Needless to say, I was terrified. The thing chased me around my apartment, I want to say for the better part of an hour. And it was literally flying at my head. It was taunting me. It was scaring me to death. And I would scream and I would hide, and then I would try to like swat at it, and then I would scream and I would hide, and it would go sit somewhere and it would steady itself and get ready for another attack, and then fucking kamikaze style that thing would fly at my head again. I was beyond consolation. I was so upset. It's the middle of the night. Can't even, think of who to call to help with this. Who am I going to wake up in the middle of the night to be like, come over here and get rid of this for me? No, couldn't do it. And at one point I thought to myself, oh, well, I don't know how long this is going to go on, but I really don't know how to get rid of this thing. I even had like the long extension of the vacuum out, trying to kind of like, vacuum it up. Nope, nothing doing. And then, quite by chance, that thing that was terrorizing me for an hour or more landed on a painting that Baba had done, my son. Boy, when I tell you, within 2 seconds of that thing landing on Baba's painting, I just walked right up to it and slammed my fist against it and crushed that shit. No fear whatsoever. The anger was completely overwhelming. And I even said, no, you don't get to do that. So I told my friend this story at lunch the other day. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry if the story is misplaced. I'm sorry. You're talking to me about like being a mom and being responsible. I'm talking about a fucking roach. Like, I'm sorry. But in that moment, in the most visceral way possible, I felt my motherly instincts kick in, and it was like I was a completely different person. I had zero fear. I mean, zero fear. I smashed that shit with my hand. Zero fear. Okay? And I didn't even just smash it with my hand. I kind of moved it over with my fist off the painting and then smashed it. Like, I was completely unafraid. I would have taken that thing in my hand and squashed it if I could. And then once it was dead and laying on the floor, I smashed it a bunch more. My heart was racing, but not in the same way at all. It wasn't fear, it was adrenaline. I tell you that story to prepare you. There are moments coming up in the next 30 days, whether they be your partner's problems that inspire you to step up and take their side or take their part, whether it's your own stuff that you've been avoiding, like I was ducking that fucking water bug, or whether it's something larger, something you've been putting off and unable to face. Whatever it is, it asks of you to step up and be brave without your armor. Why? Because you don't need it. Because you don't need it. Now, there are those of you who would say, but I'm fragile. I'm sensitive. Of course you are. And it's what makes you beautiful. But that fragility of feeling and sensitivity has nothing to do at all with how capable and how strong you are. That motherly instinct that kicked in for me and left me with no fear is the same instinct I could have had the whole time. As soon as that fucking debacle began, I could have just crushed that thing and it would have been over. But when it was about me, the fear took over and the courage was nowhere to be found. When it was about my son, The courage was there and the fear was gone completely. I didn't even scream like I was scared when I smashed it. I screamed like it was a fucking war cry. I was like, "Rah!" The anger. I just, by the way, learned that the word slogan comes from Gaelic, and it means war cry. I really like that. In general, I just fuck with the Irish so heavy. Like, I fucking love the Irish. But that in particular, I was like, yeah, I'm going to put that in the cancer video. I needed to hear that today. I'm doing this thing where I'm like picking up Gaelic words here and there. So, there will be moments where you are asked to step into the adult role. And that adult fears no fragility of feeling. That adult fears no competitor, no enemy, no circumstance, no situation. Whether it's something you've been putting off for a long time, or someone else that you can be of service to, and you can lend them your shell and your claws, go ahead and do it. Because you don't need them. You are now in a period where strength has been building with this Mars retrograde and Mars just in general being in our sign. You have been in a period of incubation where the strength within you has grown and grown and grown to the point where your shell almost starts to feel too small. But not the kind of too small where you just go shopping for a new shell. Too small as in like, I don't need that shit. And right when you start to feel that way, someone will show up in your life. Whether it's your partner, your closest friend, your parent, someone you don't even know who needs that protection really badly. And what you'll realize in those moments is that even when you take that shell off and you cover someone else with it, that shell is a part of you. It's you that covers them. One of the other ways I can relate to you what this eclipse season is like for us, Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, Cancer Moon even. The way I can explain it to you is a quote from a fellow Cancer Rising. You may have seen the speech that Angelina Jolie did a few years ago where she talks about her mom. Now, first of all, Cancer Rising talking about her mom is like mom squared, and it's real emotional to begin with. So forgive me if I am a little emotional recounting this. But there is a speech where she said that her mother, before she died, told her and taught her from young to be of service. And in the speech she says, there is a woman smarter than me, more capable than me, probably better at my job than me. And she lives in a tent in a refugee camp. I don't know why she's there and I'm here. I don't know. I don't understand why. I have all these things and she has none. But I do know that I can do something. I can do something about it. I can be of service to my fellow human beings. It was a moment of great vulnerability. Her tears, they came on easy. Her eyes welled up real easy. And to be honest, I've never been able to watch that speech without breaking into tears myself, as I would assume most of the audience did. And I think it's because when Cancerians say who they are out loud, it's very compelling stuff. We are inordinately strong and brave. It's just that most people don't know it because we don't really tap into it and we don't usually use it. But this is a time, especially in this eclipse season, where the people around you need you. They need you very badly, actually. This could be anything from a parent who's gotten too old to drive but didn't quite realize it. A friend who's drowning, doesn't know how to tell you. Could be a child that needs you more often than they did before. They don't know how to say it. It could be, the book I'm working on now is about the inner child of the zodiac. Could be your inner child. And one specific thing that you're ignoring that the inner child is just sure is going to come crashing down around their head. Whatever it is, wherever it is, whomever it is that needs you to be of service, if you step up now, you will create a space of such incredible strength. You will back up your conviction with a courage that surges through you as if it is not your own. As if the angels are talking for you. You become a real force of nature. Now, if that Pluto in Aquarius is embodied as an actual Aquarius in your life, they need you too. Even if you're not super close to them, they need you. That Sagittarius, they need you. And they're never going to tell you they need you. So how do we help others and not give ourselves away? Because that is the fear, right? Well, you're telling me to take off my armor and give it to somebody else. What if they turn around with my armor on their back and stab me in the front? What kind of advice is this? Well, I suppose the answer is that to be of service requires a courage, a knowing, a deeply seated belief that when you're doing the right thing, only good comes of it. Even if at first it doesn't look good, there is the faith there that your goodness begets goodness. This eclipse wants to show us, the eclipse period, in fact, this eclipse season, wants very badly for us to see how much stronger we are than we think we are. And a lot of times we don't ever get to know that because, frankly, we're busy hiding, being safe. How will you ever know how courageous you really are, how strong you really are, if you never get to flex any of those muscles? But you can't do that from inside a cage. And that's what that shell has become, because you, my dear, are every single day that Mars has been in your sign become a little bit more of an adult. Now, for those of us who have lived in a world of escapism, that sucks. That sounds terrible. An adult? No. I get away with half the things I don't want to do by just being a kid. Well, it's too late for that. Why? Not because you couldn't keep doing it, not because you probably would get by fine continuing to be that way. No, we become an adult perhaps for the only reasons that truly prompt us to change. because we are very hard-headed, pardon the pun. We change because the people around us desperately need us to. We change and we become an adult so we can be even more of service to others. Now, if you don't have anyone in your life that needs your help, first of all, I would suggest you look around a little bit closer. Maybe have some real honest talks with the people in your life, especially that Virgo that's ever suffering. And if you scratch the surface even a little bit, what you'll find is people desperate to tell you how much they need you, how there is something they just don't know how to tackle, how afraid they are. And as they talk to you, what will build up in you is that same battle cry that built up in me. You can scare me, you can fly at my head, you can be annoying as fuck. You can tap into the most elemental fears I have. I'm a kid raised in New York City. A water bug is like a fucking nightmare. But don't you dare put your filthy little fucking antennas on my kid's stuff. Fuck you. To be honest, I haven't been afraid of like critters or whatever you want to call them since then. Because I learned something in that moment. I learned that with the proper motivation, I was capable of things that I didn't think I could handle. And that proper motivation that you receive now is people sharing their cup with you and saying, I need help. Help me, please. And there is something in you, no matter how skittish and fragile and sensitive and closed off and introverted as we can be, there is something about that simple request that brings the fucking hero out in us, dog. We come alive. And whether we like it or not, the message that the eclipse brought crashing down around us and continues to bring crashing down around us is that the best version of you was never that little kid who could escape into their shell. The best version of you is the adult that uses its shell to cover others. The adult that needs no protection. The adult that is the protector. That transition, whether you've had children or not, whether you plan on having them or not, is what makes you mother. And it is time for us as a collective to step into that space where we know others are afraid to tread, but we are completely unfazed, unafraid, bold, violent even. Why? Because this means everything. I think I told you this before, but I'll tell you again. There is this psychological little game that you can play with people, or you can find out a lot about them if you ask them, if you could just live one day over and over again, what would it be? What day would you choose? And without even thinking about it, I was like, oh, well, any day with my kid. I don't care if it was a good day or a bad day, or I don't care. If it's me and my kid, just pick that one. I don't mind. Any day will do. Because this togetherness, happiness, contentment, the contentment that comes from community, family, friendship, love, it means more to us than anything. Except perhaps what April teaches us, which is what? If there is anything more beautiful and gratifying than this, it's to be the one responsible enough to create a scenario in which this is possible, to create an environment in which people feel safe and loved and they feel like they can thrive because they have the help they need. Oftentimes, I'm just going to be really honest, don't be offended by it, but oftentimes we're not the ones that people can rely on for help. Our health is a little testy, you know? I mean, listen, if I wake up with a headache, I'm no good. But that sensitivity within us is changing because our priorities are changing. We used to be the person you couldn't come to because who knows if cancer's having a bad day or a good day. Who knows if they're feeling sensitive and fragile and weepy today or if they even got out of bed. No. If we need it done, we probably should talk to somebody else. But my, how that's changed and how it continues to change. And it continues to change because we continue to show up. Which, in fact, whether you're a natal Cancer sun or a Cancer rising, that's across from you. That's Capricorn energy. I've got a good friend from way back in the day when we were teenagers. She's a Capricorn. And she's just lovely and actually incredibly successful woman. And in her Facebook bio way back in the day and still on her Instagram bio now, it reads 99% of success is showing up. We usually have quite a lot of hindrances in showing up. We got to manage our mood. We have to manage this body that's constantly changing according to the moon. You know, one day we're full of water, the other day we're completely drained. One day all we can do is pour salt water out of our eyes. The next day we're full of energy. Maybe it works for us, but it's not something you can necessarily rely on. And yet, I know you must have felt it yourself. The past few weeks have given you reason to become more resilient, become more dependable, become stronger, sturdier. Well, what is that? How does that correlate with giving up your shell? Well, have you thought about maybe that's why? Has it occurred to you that maybe when we give our shell out to cover somebody else, we become that much stronger because now we have to defend two people? See, when it's just us, it's like some days we're up for the fight. So, you know, like in Big Lebowski, he says some days, you know, you eat the bar and some days the bar eats you. And we're kind of fine with that. You know, we understand that everything is like the tide. It comes and goes. And some days we feel great and some days we don't. And it's okay. But we can't have that be what other people feel. We can't show up and feel strong and protective of others one day and leave them to the wind the next. No, if we give our shell out to cover somebody else, we have to show up every day. My best friend calls it reporting for duty. And we have. We have reported for duty. And we continue to show up. And no matter how scary of a concept that may be, on a conceptual level, how fearful you may be of that, I don't think we actually become the people we're supposed to until we are responsible for others. Now, this doesn't mean you should be paying somebody's bills or who's beating your ass or talking to you bad. It sure as hell doesn't mean that you should continue to be around anybody who makes you feel less than or calls you names or takes from you. No, I'm talking about the weak, not the ones oppressing you. If anything, this is motivation to get away from those people so you can help those that are weaker than you. Like she said in that speech, I don't know why she's sitting in that tent, in that refugee camp, and I don't know why I'm here. But I know I can help. And maybe that's all I need to know. It's the same with you. This grace, this strength, this protection, this adulthood that is inspired in you, it's not to help those who would take advantage and take from you. It's to help those who need it, who nobody is helping, who are constantly reaching out their hand and getting it smacked away. We put our claws on them, we put our shell on them, and we say, hey, it's okay, I'm going to show up every day, okay? This is who I am now. Whether I got a headache or not, whether I wake up on the wrong side of the bed or not, whether I'm full of water because the moon is full or I'm completely dehydrated. I'm going to put my feelings aside. And I'm going to be here for you. Why? Because you need me and I want to be of service. And as a point of fact, I can do this better than anyone else can do this for you. I can take care of you and of me. And because there's nowhere to hide, I don't want to hide. And as you adopt this way of being, you may be hit by the past. All those times where you run and hid in your shell and somebody needed you. And in those moments, I want you to remember that you have to forgive yourself. The only thing you can do about the past is be different in the present. Not a thing else can be done. Leave it where it is. Don't shame yourself. Don't blame yourself. Don't hurt yourself. In fact, don't hurt yourself at all in any way. Stop picking at your skin. Stop picking at your scars. Stop wearing stuff that's too tight when the moon is full. Jesus Christ. As a Cancer, you know you should have like 10 different sizes in your fucking closet. You know there are days when that extra large sweatshirt is the only thing you should be wearing. Stop torturing yourself. Make your life easier for yourself by accepting yourself the way you are so you can be of service. Now, those of you in relationships, this is going to hit very hard because they may need you in a way that they've never needed you before. In fact, this may radically change the nature of your relationship. Maybe you've been baby this whole time and now you're mother. That's okay. It definitely adds a dimension to your friendships. Absolutely it does. Those friends who, well, may have been taking pity on you for quite some time. Because they just know some days you got it together and some days you really don't. and they can see so clearly everything you're running from and avoiding. Imagine how much that relationship, that friendship changes when they don't see you turn and run sideways away into the sand. Imagine how those friendships, those romantic relationships, relationships with parents, relationships with people in a position of authority, imagine how much those relationships change when they don't have to go looking for you, digging up the sand because you've gone and hid somewhere. Imagine how much your own life is enriched by standing boldly in the sun, completely unafraid. Because you know how the tide works and you know how the sun works, and even though you might have spent half your life hiding in the sand, you can't take the graininess of it, not for another minute. And it makes sense. If you give your shell over to somebody else to cover them, that sensitive little mollusk you are in there is not going to like the graininess of that sand. The real you, your principles, your values, they illuminate a person that never wants to hide, that never wants to run, that never wants to avoid. They illuminate the mother in us. Bold. Strong enough to lift a fucking truck, right? That's who we are. That woman whose baby got stuck under the semi and she lifted it with one hand, that's who we are. We are that moment where your adrenaline and your belief and your sense of protection and your motherhood kick in all together, and they give you superhuman strength. Now, is the transition into being Superman a scary one? Sure. Do you have kryptonite? Yeah, I mean, even Superman has a kryptonite. And do you know what that kryptonite is for us? Especially in April, but, Aries season, but especially moving on past this season after we've learned this and integrated this into our personality. Do you know what the kryptonite will be? Lack of rest, lack of peace of mind. In order to do this job the way that you need to, which is why you've been chosen, because you can do it, you must remain very quiet in the mind. You hang up those swords because you're not afraid anymore. You can only rest properly when you're not afraid anymore. Walking away sideways and digging yourself into the sand isn't rest. It's hiding. Hiding is an active thing. Rest is not. So when you start to feel those fearful moments come up, especially towards the middle of April, where it feels like maybe you can't be out here with your shell, maybe you can't be of service, maybe you can't give your strength over to something bigger than you. When you start to feel weak, may I remind you, Superman felt weak too. Because that's what kryptonite does to you, and that's what worry will do to you. So when you start to feel that transition between Pisces and Aries season, and then Aries season to Taurus season, we're going from slow to very fast to slow again. And for a little while, you're going to feel really strong. And then you're going to have to build on it, and you're going to have to defend it. And the way that you do that is that you don't lose touch with your fragility. You don't lose touch with your sensitivity. But instead of letting it close you in, you use it as fuel to take care of others. and it blossoms all around you into a love, an acceptance that maybe you haven't felt before, an appreciation that you definitely haven't felt before. And there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there who are just waiting for the other shoe to drop because they think they know you so well. Alas, they have no idea who you are. If you ask someone, would Umber crush a water bag with her hand, they say, no, she fucking never do that shit. She's afraid of that stuff. You don't know me. When it comes to my son, you don't know me. I don't even know me. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of eclipse season. We don't even know how strong we are and how capable we are. How we can run this fucking show. Not because we want to, not because we have any power-hungry ambition, no way. But because we have to. Because nobody else is doing it. It's a really empowering, beautiful place to be in life. And I would say, personally, that this is a time of permanent change. Things shift so radically in our lives, Cancer. There is no real going back from this. You'll never be weak enough to hide again. Only tired enough to need to recharge. And who would begrudge you that? The power of all this is built on that sense of godliness and charity. Like I said, we're temperamental, but it doesn't change our heart, doesn't change who we are, doesn't change what we want. And Cancers want nothing short of changing the world as it should be, damn it. And you realize, so acute is this realization in Aries season, that there is only one way to do that, is to help the people that need it. Now, you may find that you are at odds with yourself, with the people around you who don't want you to be strong and want to use you. You may find that people are unhappy with the way you are giving right now of yourself, of your strength, of your passion. You may find that it causes quite a bit of anger in the people around you who would love to just keep pumping you for resources. But that's okay. Because you know what you're doing is right. You feel it through and through. You see it in the eyes of the people that you help. In the eyes of the people that were so desperate for protection and now they have it. And anyone who is given an undeserved free pass, well, they're going to freak out. And when they do freak out, I suggest you stick to the most simple of solutions. What's fair is fair. What's just is just. Let's weigh this all out with total fairness. Do you need me? No. Have you been there for me? No. No, you haven't. The scales say no. And from there you can begin the long, arduous task of getting all these fucking haters out of your life that right now are, right up against you like fucking Velcro. They're all smashed into you. But no matter how close they've gotten, how much they've ingratiated themselves with you, when they hear you say what's right is right, what's just is just, I think you're going to see another side of them. But you've got to be that way because it's what you're running on. Okay? I mean, listen, I'll give you another personal example. I'd like to be mayor of New York City in 2050. Inshallah, if I live that long. I'm serious. I do. Khan 2050, baby. But that means that I need to figure out really fast, even though it seems very far away. It's not. I need to figure out who I've been covering at my own expense while I was naked and afraid, and who needs to be covered because I myself can now take care of myself. The shell then becomes something you use to cover others and help others because you don't need it anymore. You're strong enough. There's a little, nostalgia and sentimentality that comes with, oh, I'm not baby anymore. Do you understand how much more fun it is to be mother than be baby? You get that? You will. When you see people's lives changing around you because you stood by them, because you showed up for them, because you held their hand and dried their tears and told them everything was going to be okay, you'll see. You'll see how much more fun this is. And as long as you are responsible for the things that you say you're going to do, it all works out in your favor. Even the people fighting with you are just fighting with you because they miss you. They want you to do everything for them. They're going to have to figure out a new way to relate to you, though. That old way isn't going to work anymore because they don't need you. They're just getting in the way. Let's see what Movie Tarot has to say about this. And then in the extended, we're going to do everything. Love, money, mental health. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This girl, she just comes up in every reading. Okay. Yes, we know. We know. And we take the tower moments as they come. And we work our magic because we are strong and we are righteous. And no matter what faces us, we're able to deal with it in justice, with a just heart, with a just sword. We are able to make what we want out of it. Why? Because we are the one helping others. We're not the ones looking for help. So that means everything that you've got to deal with personally, which of course we'll talk about in the extended, everything that you have to do personally that may become an issue, you face it with total strength. You face it head on. Because you've got to figure out a way. And you've got to tell the truth. And that's all there is to it. There's no way around it. Good. In the extended, we will talk about Venus and Mercury retrograde coming to an end, and Mars moving out of your sign and into Leo, where it will oppose Pluto. So we have about 5-6 pages worth of notes to get through, and we'll do that in the extended. I love you. I'll see you in a few weeks. Well, I'll see you in the extended, and then I'll see you in a few weeks.